and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in 2 minutes. At this time, I would ask that everyone please silence and turn off all electronic devices. Thank you. Good afternoon. On behalf of Colonel Adam J. Chikansky, it is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome each of you today to the retirement ceremony of Master Sergeant Todd A. Tribby. A special thank you to our honored guests, Master Sergeant Tribby's wife, Mrs. Toxie Tribby, and their son Connor, Niagara University President, Reverend James J. Marr, and Executive Vice President, Dr. Deborah Colley, the United States Army Cadet Command, 2nd Freedom Brigade Command Sergeant Major Gregory A. Kaywood, and family and friends of the Tribby family. Today, the United States Army will honor Master Sergeant Tribby on the occasion of his retirement after more than 22 years of dedicated service to his country. The presiding officer for today's ceremony is Colonel Adam J. Chikansky, Niagara University ROTC Professor of Military Science. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of the National Anthem and remain standing for the invocation given by Father O'Malley.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Master Sergeant Todd Tribby, thank you and God bless you for your 22 years of dedicated service to the United States Army. Thank you for receiving and utilizing the many gifts with which God has blessed you. All that you have done very well. For the Niagara University Purple Eagles Battalion, you have brought professionalism, inspiration, great teaching skills, humor, and good common sense in the midst of a most serious professional commitment. You are a tribute to your home training, your professional training, to the support and encouragement from your wife and children. You are a tribute to the United States Army and to Niagara University. May God continue to bless you and all the good that you do. We make this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Today we experience one of the oldest and most tradition-rich ceremonies in the United States military. It honors service members as they retire from long and honorable careers in service to their country. With this ceremony, Master Sergeant Todd Tribby leaves the service with a tangible expression of appreciation for his contributions to the United States Army and its worldwide mission. Additionally, he is assured that he will continue to be a member of the Army family in retirement. Today's ceremony is in keeping with the customs and proud tradition of the Department of the Army. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, joining us by telephone, please welcome the United States Army Cadet Command, 2nd Freedom Brigade Command Sergeant Major Gregory A. Kaywood. Sergeant Major.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to apologize, say sorry for not being there. The Army had me doing something else down here in the great state of Georgia. But to me, special moments like this, presence is important, especially with the soldier's career and life, to show appreciation and gratitude for your service. I take presence very importantly, but I just wish I could have been there, so I'm not. So first off, I'd like to start off with Master Tribby. Directly following this, we'll have a one-on-one conversation to speak about your HR metrics and net trust your growth. All right. Hopefully that joke went over well. Thank you for your service to this nation. It is soldiers like you that keep this country free, and this idea of the Constitution, democracy, and freedom for all. The soldiers that you have led and also that you have trained have benefited from your leadership, your inspiration, and your drive for excellence. You will never, ever truly know the impact you have made on the Army and those who were placed under your watch. I can tell you right now, it was monumental impact, and that can never be measured. And from now on, I'm proud to have said that I served with Master Tribby. To your family, thank you for supporting the soldiers. The Army is a better Army because of him. And for that, you should be proud to call him husband, father, son, and brother. I never lied to him. And Master Tribby, it would never forget your tools for life. No matter where you are, my couch door is open. And if you ever need a meal, if you're ever in the area, all you have to do is call me and look me up. So with all that said, stay safe, and God continue to bless you or your family. Hey, thanks a lot for your service, brother. Congratulations.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Major. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Niagara University ROTC Professor of Military Science, Colonel Adam J. Chikansky.
Mother Mara, Dr. Colley, Command Sergeant Major Kaywood, members of the Purple Eagle Battalion, friends, and the Tribby family. Welcome as we recognize Master Sergeant Todd Tribby and his exemplary service to our nation. It's an honor for me to preside over his retirement this afternoon. I'm going to open up by sharing one of my first observations of Master Sergeant Tribby that captures the essence of who he is as a person. Bear with me. My last tour in Afghanistan, I worked for a Special Forces officer as part of a small advisory element embedded with an Afghan border police unit. As we formed our team, we discussed the technical, personality, and leadership traits of each person to make sure they were a good fit for the mission. He brought one NCO with him who we had worked with previously, and his overarching comment about him was, he's the kind of guy who will never walk past a piece of trash on the side. I thought it was an interesting comment, but I quickly understood the meaning. Most people walk past litter, lie on the sidewalk or in the hallway, because there's no formal expectation or requirement to pick it up. It's technically somebody else's job. However, the right thing to do would be to pick it up and place it in the trash can where it belongs. It's about personal discipline and being compelled to do what is right. Not because someone expects you to do it, but because you care enough to take the right action. I didn't think much of the comment after that discussion, but 6 years later, on one of my first walks across the campus here at Niagara University, Sergeant Tribby and I were talking about a cadet issue. Without breaking stride or pausing our conversation, he casually grabbed a candy wrapper, lying in the middle of the sidewalk, carried it with him for about 30 yards, through the trash can. I had everything I needed to know about my senior NCO in my right-hand man. I knew that if he cared enough about the seemingly small things, that he most definitely cared about the more important ones as well. I'll come back to that thought in a minute. But first, let's look at how Master Sergeant Tribby came to be the leader that he is today. In true Army parlance, it's kind of like a three-phase operation. The first phase begins in Georgia. Growing up in Columbus, outside the revered gates of Fort Benning, the Army's home of the infantry, it's no surprise that he went to the MEP station to enlist after graduating from high school and after a brief stint at Columbus College, intent on becoming a tanker. One can only imagine the sandbox of a young Todd Tribby, littered with plastic tanks, strategically placed for imaginary maneuvers, while plastic infantry soldiers were scorned in disinterested piles off to the side. However, on that day, as often happens in life, God's plan is not aligned with our own. An administrative hiccup kept him from enlisting in the Army that day, but a Navy recruiter quickly descended on him, sold him on the technical education and skills available through the Navy, and locked him into a 6-year enlistment. Sergeant Tribby successfully completed that enlistment and left the Navy with 3 important things: great technical education, an appreciation for the sense of purpose provided by the military, and most importantly, he left with Todd, whom he had met and married during that latter part of his enlistment. The detour to the Navy was obviously worth it. It was also during that time that a strong and lasting impression was made through the influence of a leader by the name of Tom Kennedy. Commander Kennedy was the captain of the USS Stubby, and he took the time to meet with all 350 of his sailors in personal counseling twice a year, to include a young Todd Tribby. These sessions helped him to better know, assist, mentor, and empower those he was charged to lead. Sergeant Tribby reflected that Commander Kennedy, quote, taught me to talk to everyone in the unit and to value them as people first, end quote. Now, the second phase can be termed the inter-service years, during which Sergeant Tribby spent nearly a decade out of uniform, working jobs in the private sector. Although this period brought him 3 beautiful children in Hannah, Maddie, and Connor, it also enhanced his appreciation for the people with whom he served with in the Navy and sense of purpose the military given to him. After annual pilgrimages to the recruiting station, he finally decided in 2006 to re-enter the service. This time, in the Army as a tanker, as he had originally intended years earlier. In his own words again, quote, I'm a people person, and I get more satisfaction from building teams than fixing things. Army tank crews are the ultimate small team, end quote. And so began the third and final phase. 15 years that brought Sergeant Tribby and his family to Europe, back home to Georgia, to Alaska, and finally here to Western New York. Combat deployments to some of the toughest parts of Iraq during the most difficult times of Operation Iraqi Freedom, with both excitement and horrors of war. Countless milestones reached and surpassed by his children as they grew into young adults, professional successes and promotions, and health challenges that were overcome. Overall, these years significantly shaped the growth and development of Todd Tribby and the leader that he is today. One of them in particular is worth mentioning that had lasting effects was a mission rehearsal exercise in preparation for deployment to Iraq. Sergeant Tribby's tank platoon was attached to a mechanized infantry company, and the infantry company commander had an odd idea to have infantrymen man the tanks, while the tankers went out in trucks. Sergeant Tribby's platoon leader and platoon sergeant didn't fight the idea or agreed to the plan. The tanks would be in static positions, so it seemed like it made sense to some degree. The infantry commander caught Sergeant Tribby's scowl of consternation and disapproval from across the room and called him out. Master Sergeant Tribby proceeded to speak his mind, provide a full capabilities brief, and ultimately sold the infantry commander that the best course of action was to allow the tankers to crew their tanks. Sergeant Tribby, in his own words, reflected, quote, I learned that my voice had value and that I should always speak up, end quote. Hard to believe there was ever a period when Todd Tribby had a hard time speaking up. Apparently it existed. Master Sergeant Tribby never had an issue speaking up while serving with the Purple Eagle Battalion, especially when he knew things needed to be done better or weren't being done right. Much like the piece of litter sitting in his path that he couldn't walk past in good conscience, he couldn't let something he knew wasn't right go unaddressed. Couple this with the mindset, the influence of Tom Kennedy, it's no wonder that Sergeant Tribby's office rarely was without a cadet present in it, or that he rarely went a weekend without a cadet reaching out to him. Although they readily drew one of his trademark, "God bless America," refrains in a moment of frustration, every cadet knew that Master Sergeant Tribby was always there to help them if they ever needed anything. They sought him out because they valued his advice, respected him as a leader, and trusted him as a person. He was like a second father to them. And so legacy is defined much more significantly by the lives positively affected than by personal achievements or accolades. Master Sergeant Tribby's legacy is rich in this regard. His influence while serving as the first sergeant of an infantry company in Alaska can be measured by the numerous soldiers who were privates and specialists while he was there as the first sergeant, now serving as platoon sergeants. His impact was just as strong here at Niagara University. Purple Eagle Battalion alumni readily shared their thoughts about Sergeant Tribby and his impact on their lives. The following are a few excerpts. Quote, "Master Sergeant Tribby is the most influential NCO I have ever met. He taught me to always put the soldier first, whether it's out in the field in muddy, freezing temperatures, or in garrison. He's got a way of motivating you to be your absolute best." End quote. Another Purple Eagle alumni wrote, quote, guess who this is? "I thought my career was over when I branched chemical. And he gave me the motivation to try harder and not to give up. He always would tell me, as a cadet when I royally screwed up, to be better tomorrow. I never thought I would make it past RAP week in Ranger School, but all I could think about was being better tomorrow. He still is a major influence in my development as an officer." End quote. And finally, quote, "Master Sergeant Tribby's impact on my development, both as an officer and as a man, cannot be effectively described in words. His selfless service to his nation and commitment to being a lifelong learner inspired every class of cadets he taught. I have no doubt he will find equal success in his next chapter of life. My only hope is that he walks it as a Bills fan." Thank you, Tyler Rand. Master Sergeant Tribby's legacy as a husband and a father is equally impressive. The Army life can be hard on a family. Achieving balance is often very elusive for the service member and frustrating for the family. A former commander of mine once told me, regarding a successful career, that it only counts if you cross the finish line together, and if you retire with your family. Todd and Toxie are crossing the finish line together, as they just recently celebrated 25 years of marriage. Together they've raised 3 children they can be very proud of. One daughter graduating college this year, another daughter currently serving in the Marine Corps, and a son graduating from high school in June. How many dads would volunteer to serve for multiple years as the scoutmaster for a Boy Scout troop? Countless meetings, countless camping trips. How many dads would go vegan with their daughter for a year? That's love. And that's the kind of care that Todd Tribby has had for his family, similar to the care he has shown for the soldiers and cadets whom he has led for more than 20 years. John Quincy Adams described Todd Tribby perfectly when he said, quote, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader." End quote. The Purple Eagle Battalion, the United States Army, and our nation are forever grateful for your unwavering loyalty, dedicated service, and exceptional leadership. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
Toast the
Attention to orders. The Meritorious Service Medal is awarded to Master Sergeant Todd A. Tribby for exceptionally meritorious service in positions of increasing responsibility, culminating as the Senior Military Science Instructor for Niagara University. Master Sergeant Tribby's dedication to duty and selfless service throughout his 22 years of exemplary service are in keeping with the finest traditions of military service. His numerous contributions and outstanding performance to duty reflect great credit upon him, the 2nd Freedom Brigade, the United States Army Cadet Command, and the United States Army. Signed, John R. Evans, Jr., Major General, U.S. Army, Commanding. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and remain seated for the duration of the ceremony.
Now for retirement.
Master Sergeant Todd A. Tribby, effective 1 February 2021, you are released from active duty and placed on the retirement list. The people of the United States express their thanks and gratitude for your faithful service. Your contributions to the defense of the United States of America are greatly appreciated. Signed, James C. McConville, General, United States Army, Chief of Staff. At this time, Colonel Chikansky will also present Master Sergeant Tribby a certificate of appreciation from the former Commander-in-Chief, President Donald J. Trump. The certificate reads, "For service in the armed forces of the United States of America, I extend to you my personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of a grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped maintain the security of a nation during a critical time in its history with a devotion to duty and a spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of military service. Your commitment and dedication have been an inspiration for those who will follow in your footsteps, and for all Americans who join me today in saluting you for a job extremely well done. My best wishes to you for a happiness and success in the future." Signed, Donald J. Trump, Commander-in-Chief. At this time, gift presentations will be made by Colonel Chikansky.
So this is a gift from the cadre program. Show the audience. So the symbolism here is along the top. It's regimental president, all regiments that Sergeant Tribby is assigned to during his time in the Army. And then you have the armor got on. Obviously, that's an armor. And now you can believe what the battalion got on. That's got his last 4.5 years of service. And then below that, 1st Armored Division, time in Germany. Tank with the armor branch insignia underneath it. And then 25th ID, the time in Alaska, he was the 1st Sergeant. He was there as 1st Sergeant for infantry company, so the infantry branch insignia below that. And now it's the combat action badge in his rank. Thank you so much, sir. All right, so cadre, how should we get a picture of all the cadre? Cadre, if you want to come in. Gary? All cadre.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to invite Mrs. Toxie Tribby. It is a known fact that the NCO Corps is the backbone of the Army. However, it is the spouse of a soldier that is truly the backbone. Not only does the soldier sacrifice his time in service to this great nation, but it is the military spouse and family that sacrifices as well. Colonel Chikinsky will now present Mrs. Toxie Tribby with a certificate of appreciation and flowers for her sacrifice and many years of service throughout her husband's career. The certificate reads, "To all those who shall see these presents greeting, this is to certify that Toxie Tribby, on the occasion of the retirement of your spouse from the United States Army, has earned a grateful appreciation for your own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Your unfailing support and understanding helped to make possible your spouse's lasting contribution to the nation." Signed, James C. McConville, General, United States Army, Chief of Staff. This time, Sergeant First Class Christopher King will present Master Sergeant Todd Tribby the flag of the United States in a special tribute known as Old Glory.
I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over the great institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is held a little higher. My colors are a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshipped. I am saluted. I am respected. I am revered. I am loved. I am feared. For more than 200 years, I have fought in every battle of every war: Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, the jungles of Guam, Okinawa, Tarawa, Korea, Vietnam, in the Persian Gulf, and a score of other places long forgotten by all, but not those who were there with me. I led my soldiers, Marines, sailors, and airmen. I followed them and watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill on Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-worn, and tired, but my troops cheered me, and I was proud. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of the countries that I have helped to set free. It does not hurt, for I am invincible. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country, and when it is done by those I have served and battled with, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the bonds of the earth, and from my vantage point on the moon, I stand watch over the new frontiers of space. I have been the silent witness to all of America's finest hours, but my finest hour comes when I am torn into strips to be used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle. When I fly half-mast to honor my service members, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother, at the graveside of her fallen son or daughter, I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave, dear God, long may I wave.
This flag is the true emblem of our unity, power, and purpose as a nation. Accept it, protect it, and be ever mindful that the young men and women you have led, trained, and inspired throughout your outstanding career will follow in your footsteps and defend this flag with equal pride. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Master Sergeant Retired Todd Tribby, United States Army.
So for the first time ever, I wrote all this down. First, I want to thank the team here in you for putting all this together. A few weeks ago, I was talking to one of my brothers who recently retired from Cadet Command, and he goes, I really wish that I had found a way to retire from the Forces Command unit. I just kind of was at work one day and I was gone the next. And you guys certainly made sure that was not the case for me, and I appreciate that. I'll never forget today. I'd like to thank the executive team here at the university for allowing me to do the work that I've done for the last 4.5 years. That is not the case across the board either. We are truly empowered here at Niagara University to coach, mentor, guide, and train these cadets into becoming the future leaders of America. We're not shackled, and I truly appreciate that. I can't express that enough. We have a truly special program here. Cadets, I'm going to try to make this a good Todd talk, but that comes at the end. I've got a lot of other people to thank first. And, you know, really, no one does this alone. You get born into a family you didn't choose, and you're going to die with the family you chose. But we don't do anything alone. Those two events are not lonely, and life in between is not. God picked the perfect family for me. My mom and dad, it's too early to choke up. I've been married for so long, I'm pretty sure Moses was at the ceremony. Their devotion to each other in good times and hard times gave me an example to live my life by and to model my own marriage after. My mother taught me kindness and how to love people, and my father taught me to be tough and disciplined. They showed me what work ethic looks like. Mom and Dad gave me all the ingredients to be successful in my military career, in life in general. Thank you. There is so much of you in all of this. We got a long way to go. While we have lived away from each other more than together, my family has always remained close. I talk to my brother and my parents often, and I hope that one day we can all be geographically closer together. God puts you in a family, and then you build a family that you choose. I met Toxie in a bar in Montgomery, Alabama in February of 1995. We're not ashamed of that. Toxie, I know you know the date, but just be glad that I know the month and the year. We got married 10 months later, which is fast. We married at the end of my service in the Navy, and 9 years later, she would become an Army wife. Toxie, you've always supported whatever team I have been on. You've served in more FRGs than I can count, more roles than we can remember. You've helped countless young Army wives adjust to their new reality, and you've also helped so many young soldiers. You've done taxes and cooked dinners for soldiers all over the world. You raised our children while living abroad with a husband who wasn't home as much as most. And I realize how much I've been gone now, and my kids are all three home, and they're talking about things that happened, and they think Dad can't remember because he bumped his head. It's because I wasn't there. You moved 3 kids, aged 7, 4, and 3, on an airplane across the Atlantic Ocean. And you should have been very afraid of it. While I was making my way home from Iraq. When I was a tank commander, we had those boys in the house often, and you took care of them like they were your own. Those men, who are now in their 30s, still refer to you as Mama Toxie. When I was a first sergeant, you served the families in our unit selflessly, and I got a couple stories about that. So we were dubbed to be the global QRF for the striker community. I can't speak English anymore either. And it came over Christmas, which sucked when you're in Alaska because you can't go home on 4-day weekends, and that was one of the 2 times a year they were able to see their families. So our family has a tradition on Christmas morning. We open our presents, and we always have a breakfast casserole. So my wife's idea, and she helped make this happen, was that we were going to have all of the families go to the barracks, and we were going to have a breakfast, brunch, and then the soldiers would have their fill of boots, which is when the wives go around and put candy in their boots outside their door. That would not have happened without my wife's energy behind it. She put a couple other ladies in a headlock, got their husbands on board, and we had just as many soldiers there with their wives and families as we did soldiers who were there alone without their families. It was momentous. I know that that's still talked about to this day by men who are serving in roles as platoon sergeants and first sergeants and company commanders out there in the force today. And then as the FRG leader, so her time as the FRG leader came to an end before my time as the first sergeant did, and this is kind of where it happened. But she would get phone calls from everybody, and that worked out fine when I was a platoon sergeant somewhere else because I only had about 12 dudes to make decisions for, and it worked out. But when I became the first sergeant of that company, there was 150 cats, and not everybody wants to go to the field. So it was a Friday afternoon. After a long week, we were going to leave late Sunday night to head out to the Donnelly training area for probably a month. That's what we usually did. And her phone was ringing off the hook. I was laying on the couch trying to gather myself because it had just been a trying week, and I wanted to spend some time with the family before we left. And I heard her. I could hear the person in the phone too, and they said, "Can my husband do anything for the first sergeant except for go to the field?" And my wife did. She had the right answer. She had talked to his platoon sergeant yet. And, you know, the girl went on and talked some more. And finally, she said, I'm not going to say what she said, but she said, "God bless him. Todd, they're just going to ask you anyway." And I said, "Tell him he's going to the field," which some of you guys may have heard. And that was kind of the end of her time as the FRG leader. Somebody else took over, and rightfully so. We often hear about the military spouse, but we don't hear much about what the kids endure to support the cause of our freedom. I've been blessed with 3 children, Hannah, Maddie, and Connor. It's been an event-filled year in our family. Hannah turned 21. We celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. Connor turned 18. I turned 50, and 5 days later was unemployed. But wait, there's more. Hannah will graduate from Syracuse University in March. Maddie will graduate from the Defense Language Institute in June, and a few days later, Connor will graduate from high school. This has been a huge adventure for you 3. You've lived in Germany and traveled all over Europe. You've lived in Alaska and had 2 cross-continent RV trips. One day you will only remember the good parts of those trips. You are old enough to understand what Dad did for a living and watch the news. And watch the news about the places where I was fighting. You have a perspective of the world that only military kids get. You've also endured many moves, left friends and boyfriends, school, sports, and aspirations behind because you had to go where the Army sent us. Nobody asked you. You did it mostly with courage and a stiff upper lip. You have a perspective on life that only military kids will get. Thank you. I am so proud of all of you. My daughter Madeline is a United States Marine stationed in Monterey, California. She is the 4th generation of Tribbys to serve our great nation. My grandfather served in the Merchant Marine in World War II. His brother served in the Navy. My father served in the Air Force during Vietnam. Then you get me. Now you have Maddie. I have no doubt that she will serve with distinction and leave her mark on the wall, just like we did. So the story. I served in the Navy from 1996. Those were the formative years of my professional life, and I would like to talk about a few of the sailors that made a lifelong impact. I didn't get my stuff together until I was about 22. I was probably just like all of you. To all you patient leaders who saw potential in me and stuck with me, thank you. I think it paid off. The Bryans, Brian Marsh and Brian Primovitz. You guys showed me how to take pride in my work. You taught me about cars. Toxie, it's their fault that I try things way beyond my ability. You are my friends that I shared the most with. I've lost touch with you. Social media had not yet been invented. We were still dialing up on AOL. You taught me how to keep my emotions in check. Brian Marsh was probably my closest friend in my young days. He became a 2nd class petty officer, E5. I was still an E4, 3rd class petty officer. And I had a horrible temper and would fly off the handle about things. One day he was leading a detail. We were carrying heavy things, doing something, and I bumped my head on something and flew off the handle. And he said, "Todd," because we used our names, "Todd, nobody wants to be around you when you're like that." I said, "Okay, I'll be okay." So go, just leave. I never forgot that, and I also learned to keep my emotions in check because I was so humbled by that experience that I didn't want to have that effect on other people again. So, Brian Marsh, I haven't talked to you in over 30 years. 25 years. But if anybody can help me find him, I would love to talk to him. Scott Darrow, you were my first mentor. We are still in touch. You made me feel like I had something to offer the team. You did what I would do 12 years later. I think you were in your mid-30s when you joined the Navy. You showed me how to be the old man in the unit, and I've always made sure to pay that forward. Never shirked my duties because I was 10 years older than everybody else, but also to share my rich life experiences with those younger than me and help them not make the same mistakes that I had made. Commander Tom Kennedy, we've already heard about Tom a little bit, but you were the first senior leader I ever really got to know. And I can remember twice being in your stateroom for our counselings. And the first time was, first I couldn't believe the captainship actually called Petty Officer, I think I was a second class Petty Officer then, to come and talk to him. I mean, just unheard of. So I'm sitting there, didn't really have a great attitude about my station in life. I was counting the days or the years at that point in time until I could leave. And he just talked to me. He talked about my dreams, my aspirations, and I didn't even know he was taking notes. 6 months later, I'm sitting in the stateroom with him again, and he asked me if I'd enrolled in any college classes. He asked me if I had thought more about how I would serve if I stayed in the Navy, and really, that's when I knew the man cared about me. And he established a climate in that particular command that everybody began to care about everyone, and I felt valued as a person and a professional for the first time in my military career. I can't tell him what a great impact he made. I have no idea where he is anymore, but maybe this gets back to him somehow, and he can know that he affected someone 30 years down the line. Thank you, sir. So I wanted to join the Army when I was a kid. Colonel Chikansky told the story. What you young folks don't know is once upon a time there were no rules at MEX. So there was no civilians either. So it was all Grand Suiters or whatever color your uniform was that worked there. And when I got kicked out of the office where you would go get your job, I'm sitting in the middle of this pit, and all the other officers are eyeballing me. So this guy in a white uniform came over and looked at my test scores, which were pretty good, believe it or not, and sold me on the Navy that day. And it was really a great experience. They fulfilled their promise. They gave me a top-rate technical education and taught me that I do not want to be a maintenance technician. And I had a great time. I've seen all parts of the world with the exception of the Orient, and that's on the list. But it was a wonderful experience. After the Navy, I visited recruiters once a year for 9 years, but I couldn't afford to take what the Navy would, but what would have been a pay cut to come back as a soldier. I did a lot of things, but it all revolved around chasing dollars. I didn't like it. I'm not very good at it. I always made an okay living, but was never very fulfilled by it. In 2003 or 2004, our second business failed. And folks, you can do anything when you're broke. So here we are. And the other thing too is there was a war going on. So when I walked in the recruiter's office, their answer was, "Sure you can come back. And you want to be combat arms? Yes, come join the team." So after the Warrior Transitions course, which went away, thank God, because it was truly horrific in OSIT, I got sent to Baumholder, Germany to serve in Charlie Company 135 Armor. I had to go to Ramadi, Iraq to catch up with the unit. This was in the summer of 2006, I think. And when I got there, there was 3 of us that came into the company. First Sergeant Robin Bollmer, now Command Sergeant Major. Bollmer is the Command Sergeant Major for 7th ID. Was the first sergeant, and I'm not going to tell that story. But he assigned me to 2nd Platoon, and we were off by ourselves, away from the company. We were assigned to a heavy weapons company of Marines at Hurricane Point. We were their heavy QRF, and we were needed. The armorer for the company says, "Oh, you're going to Hurricane Point? You'll get to kill somebody." I was like, "Great." But what I learned was that Marines are great people to fight with. It was truly 5 of my best months in combat was spent with 3 8 Marines followed up by 1 6 Marines. They were phenomenal. 3 men in the platoon that I was assigned to, the black sheep, would have a lifelong or career-long impact on me. And that's First Sergeant Retired Nick Butler. He was my first platoon sergeant. He demonstrated a technical expertise that I wanted to repeat for my soldiers. I didn't know it at the time, but he was a master gunner. I didn't know what that was. But he taught us, he took a real interest in teaching me about how this great machine worked. and motivated me to learn more, and later learned that was the inspiration that led me to become a master gunner, which is a truly horrible 12-week experience, but I recommend it to all our soldiers. The Black Sheep were an effective unit because of your example. Thank you. Jeremy Ricketts and Bobby Dean, you two, A, got me off the LT's tank, thank you, and helped me get ready for future leadership at light speed. So they recognized that due to the war, the Army was on the grow, we were deploying, our tempo was up, and that I was older, had some experience, and I was going to be on the fast track to assume positions of greater responsibility quicker than most. So they really made sure that happened, and they showed me some really great times in the tank. Again, most of those aren't appropriate, but I will tell you this. So I was a good tank loader. I was a mediocre tank gunner. I was an exceptional tank commander, and I got fired as a tank driver. So I drove the tank one time in Ramadi. We had to go from Camp Ramadi back over to Hurricane Point. We were getting parts or mail or something like that. You can get mail in the tank. So we're driving back, and they said, "Tribby, drive the tank." I said, "Okay, I'll drive the tank." I got in the tank, and I panicked. I had high anxiety about that. I forgot to adjust my seat right, so I'm trying to do a crunch the whole way I'm driving. Only one of us understands. As we're going there, I come to make the turn into the ECP. Well, as you can imagine, it's pretty limited visibility. And I made the turn a little bit too soon, felt the T-wall that I was going up on top of, so then I turned away from it, which then put the tank even farther up on the T-wall, as the tank commander, Staff Sergeant Ricketts, was screaming things that I can't repeat at this point in time. But we didn't flip the tank over. We got back inside Camp Ramadi, and I never drove the tank again. So then there was Iraq round 2. I went back to Iraq as a tank commander. We were assigned to Charlie Company 16th Infantry. This experience would pay off in spades in about 5 years. We'll get to that. That was Hellraiser platoon. Those men were the first chance I had to really build my Army family. Sergeant Cutney, Sergeant First Class Joyce, Sergeant Freeman, Sergeant Hall, Kyle Kimball, Jeremy Boudreaux, Tyler Ray, John Peterson, Doc Bursey. When your medic has got "kill" tattooed on the inside of his lip, you've got a medic, folks. And Renee Chancho Navarez, our Fister, and Major Roman, who's still serving out there. I love you guys. You are my first successes and failures as a leader. So this was not supposed to happen this way. We get to Iraq. We didn't really know what our mission was going to be. We were really supposed to hang out on Camp Taji, which was one of those great fobs, nice chow hall. This never happens to people like me. We get there, and then we see the headline that there was the Jaysh al-Mahdi had overrun a checkpoint down around Sadr City. And we kind of knew that we weren't going to stay at Camp Taji at that point in time, but within just a few days, I was in a heavy equipment transport with a tank on the trailer, my tank on the trailer. It had all the platoon's equipment loaded in it because I was going to be the first tank there for the company. And so me and Kyle Kimball and Jerry Boudreaux are in this het, and we're driving towards Sadr City at night. Now there's a kinetic fight going on. There's tracers going everywhere. You can see Black Hawks work in the area. There was fast movers working the area. I mean, it was a fight. So then we lose visibility as we go into the crossing route Pluto to get up to the COP. I have no map. I've got no graphics. I have no idea where I'm going. The het stops. He says, "This is where you guys get out." We jump out. Now, the driver's hole was clear. Old Jeremy Boudreaux hopped in the driver's hole, fired the tank up. We back off the het. And then I realized I have nowhere to go because my tank is full of everybody's stuff, and I didn't PCI myself to make sure my CPC was available. So I'm laying on top of the turret of the tank, screaming into the loader's hole at him, "Hey, go forward, go left, go right." Now it's pitch black dark. I fell on my nods and crushed them. I have no night vision, but I followed the tracers and went into the beaten area, which is where we were going. So it all worked out. We finally get in the COP and made our statement. And Jeremy, I don't know if you knew that I was afraid, but I was terrified that night. I'm just glad we got through that okay. That company was led by Captain Eric Oxenbog and First Sergeant Tuck. Now Lieutenant Colonel Eric Oxenbog out at NTC and CSM retired Tuck. I just want to thank you guys for giving me the chance to prove myself as a warrior in your organization, to lead that platoon, and I really learned how to get in the close fight from you. You gave me insight into the infantry, which would be key 4 years later. It's also worth mentioning Lieutenant Colonel David Escher, whose career was cut short. He was wounded in Afghanistan. He really taught me how to inspire people to do great things. He was the best speaker I've ever seen in my life. The soldiers loved that man. We were standing in formation, and we'd been waiting for a while, but for the first time ever, none of the soldiers complained about waiting for Colonel Escher to come in the motor pool and give the safety brief. And we were in Baumholder, Germany. If you want to find Baumholder, go through the rain clouds. And it was raining, and we're waiting, and I hear behind me Kyle Kimball say, "Watch, the sun's going to come out." And God is my witness. Colonel Escher walked in the motor pool, and the damn sun came out. So whatever your deal is with the Lord, sir, it paid off. You inspired thousands of people to do great things. It's worth thanking Colonel Retired Green and Sergeant Major Chapman. My time at Fort Benning was really unremarkable professionally. I got sick when I got there. I spent those 3 years being treated for and recovering from some health issues. But I wanted to thank those two men for providing me the top cover that allowed me to recover and stay in the Army. Had we let things run their normal course, I would not be here today. I'd be alive. I would be here. Berserker Company. So my Berserkers. I'm the proudest of the things that we accomplished together. Colonel Tom Hoth, Sergeant Major Collins, thank you for giving me the chance to be Berserker 7. General Hill, Sergeant Major Bass, thank you for not firing me. So many of you have gone on in the Army as leaders. So one of the differences between Hellraiser Platoon and Berserker Company is our retention rate was phenomenal in Berserker Company. I never gave it any thought at the time. I wasn't really looking at my own metrics. But when I look out there across here, who's took over a company, who's having a change of responsibility, who just got promoted to Sergeant First Class, who's in this school or that school, most of you stayed. And you guys have gone and done well. I've always told people, if you want to change the world, find 10 people who can believe the same thing you do, inspire them to go forth with that vision, and you'll never see the change you make, but decades later, that will become the future. And I think that some of those positive things went forward to those folks. I had great battle buddies. Steve Schleier, Major Miles Durkin, who is the smartest person I've ever worked with. Sir, it was exhausting. I used to come into work at 4:30 in the morning so I could start reading emails, and by the time you got there and it was time for the morning brief, you had caught up with me, but at least I knew what you were talking about. And Major Daniel, you guys were all three phenomenal battle buddies. My XOs, Brennan Sinchak and Captain Julian Hutchins, were the soul of the company. You guys we're still in touch with each other. It's been an honor to serve you. The times we shared are some of my best memories. Those years are proof that greatness comes from adversity. We called the place we worked the People's Cough because it looked like something out of Soviet Russia. So the story behind that is, and Brendan can tell this the best, is we were moving in. So we got all these boxes and plastic containers of things, and the power was flickering on and off, so the emergency lights would come on, the power would go out, and it was raining or thawing, and there was water dripping down the stairwells because it was just that high quality. And as the power was coming on and off, there was 3rd Platoon. It's always 3rd Platoon. They were vaping in the hallway, so it looked like something out of a post-apocalyptic dystopian novel. But that was the People's Cough, and that's where we started as a company. But we went on from, but remember, the phoenix has to burn before it can rise up. We went on from that place to be one of the best companies in that brigade, bar none. So I can probably tell this story now. How did I become the first sergeant? So I was a tanker platoon sergeant in an infantry company, in an organization that was very infantry. And our first sergeant did the bad, and I got a phone call from the sergeant major to meet me down at first sergeant's office in the morning at 6 and make sure nobody's in the building between 6:30 and 8. So I was like, okay, you can tell me what's going on? He said, no, Trev, I can't do that yet. That's never a good sign. So I'm outside the office, and the first sergeant came in, put his things in the box, handed me the keys, and left. Didn't say nothing, also not a good sign. And so I'm standing there, and I went back to see the sergeant major later that morning, and I said, hey, I got these keys, and his response was, you're going to need to hold on to those a little bit. I need somebody that can get the company through NTC. That was like a month later, and I went to an NCODP, that's non-commissioned officer. They would teach us about stuff. And it was about how to do CASEVAC, how to manage your medics and casualties and things like that. And I'm a tanker. There's no room in the tank for medics. So I'd never dealt with medics before as a platoon sergeant. I never dealt with any of that stuff because when a tank gets blown up, everybody's dead. There's nothing to evacuate. So this was a whole new concept, and I thought I was in over my head. They were patient. They got me through it, and 26 months later, I gave the company to First Sergeant Aiken, and as far as I know, they've done very well ever since. Purple Eagles, this has been rewarding to say the least. What you guys taught me was that I'm a teacher. That's what I do. That's who I am. So all year long, some of you guys have been part of the struggle that I've had trying to figure out what to do when I grow up, because I had to grow up about 3 weeks ago. It started with I'm going to do a JROTC job, and that didn't quite work out like I wanted it to, because then I wanted to make money, so I was going to get in operations management. And my wife said, "You don't need another high-stress job." And I said, "Maybe you're right." So then I said, "I'll start my own business," and we refined that and went down the rabbit hole with that. And then I've come back full circle and realized that you are who you are. And I was put on this earth and enabled by God with certain abilities, and that is to coach and mentor and teach people. So that's where I will put my next effort into, is defining a JRTC program that's right for my family, and that's what I'll do until Act 3, whatever that is. The short story of the lesson, this is the great staging area. So ROTC is a great staging area for people that are about to start the great adventure. And most of you, well, not most of you, but I see seniors, I see juniors. Very quickly, you're going to be out of the staging area. You're going to be in the journey. And what I want you guys to remember, and some of you have heard these things before, is you don't want to leave life with regrets. I don't have a lot of regrets. I've got 2 professional regrets. And the lesson is you can't put things off, because windows will close on you. Doors will close. There's only availability to do things at certain times. There's not one regret I have in life from having tried to do something. My regrets are about 2 things that I didn't attempt to do. And remember that. If an opportunity presents itself and you're mildly interested, get involved in it. Give it a shot. You won't regret the time you spent chasing something, but you will regret when the window closes and you didn't take advantage of the opportunity to do something that could have made you a fuller person and had a richer life. Finally, I can't do it by name because I won't be able to get through without crying. But to those young men that we took to bad places to do hard things that did not make it back, it was my life's honor to have served, to have known you. You left me with a debt that I can't repay. I've lived my life and will continue to do so in order to honor your lives that were cut so short. For those of you in the room, I will hold the high ground and see you there one day. For those of you that have gone before me, I will see you on the green. Todd Tribby's off the net.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the benediction by Father O'Malley and remain standing for the playing of the Army Song.
God bless you always, Todd. May the Lord bless and keep us. May He let His face shine upon us, and may He bless all the days of our lives. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Fight for the nation's might, and the army goes rolling up. its way. Count off the cadence loud and strong. Wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the retirement ceremony. Please come forward and wish Master Sergeant retired Todd Tribby and his family all the best. Thank you.